time, or well, in the 20th century. So we had to think about what was the meaning, the hidden meaning behind these pictures.
Forging in past. And it seems that they, from what you said, I haven't read the book yet, that they go from, it's a chronological order that you're progressing
more or less
through.
chronological.
They go from a religious time, which is what most of the Europeans early time, and then up to political
religious to political.
They started religious because it was
that
it was
was
sort
what
of
it was back
yes,
then.
exactly. And then they realized they could actually slip in some
Political
hidden messages
comments.
or yes, commands, messages. So that's how they
They also
evolved.
went from being very fine to
Actually,
was very deteriorating.
But you're talking a long period, 1860
Yeah.
to 1900.
right.
But I say, if it weren't for Denis, nobody would still know about this. I mean, nobody has ever done this work before. Denis did completely original research on this. He's the only guy who really can tell you any of these stories. So it's been a privilege to work with Denis.
And I have to say, it wasn't that he just opened an old book. He had to dig into some really strange little archives to find things.
With many cobwebs.
Digs of a few graves.
And Paula is the lady who brought us together and made the whole project happen and made all the lists. There is nobody makes a better list than
That's the mark of it.
Brian and the group, you mentioned that you were interested in stereo views as a young person. Once you started doing research, how did you all come together, and then what was your first stereo view that you selected, or how did that start, which created all this?
How did it start? Well, differently for each of us. My first 3D experience was out of a packet of cereal in Weetabix. Weetabix packets. They don't do this anymore. It used to be such fun for kids. You'd open your cereal packet and they would be a toy, something fabulous, plastic or a model or whatever. And in this case, in the Weetabix thing, it was a card with two little images, quite flat, and looked kind of boring. And then you would send away 1 and 6 pence for your viewer and a packet top. And then once you put the card in the viewer, the magic happened. And suddenly, instead of two little flat cards, there was a window you could walk through. You could touch. You could feel like you could be just in there. So I was completely captured. And I find that most people who have that experience get captured. And the feeling, the thrill never leaves them. So I'm completely as passionate about 3D stuff as I ever was. And we share that. The Diableries thing, how did we get together? Well, it's a long story really, but I don't know where we would start really. We just were lucky enough to find each other. And Elena,
And we shared the passion because we were fascinated by these cards, and we wanted to understand what was behind them, and we wanted to understand the story, and this is what brought us together. And this is fun.
One more shot.
Really?
Some of the images with landscape in the background look like they had parallax. Do you think that they drew them with parallax, or they used those mats somehow creatively to generate that?
it's a model. It's purely make a model and photograph it. So some of them will have a flat background and some of them won't. It was a bit quicker to do a painted background than it was to make models going off to infinity like Ennetier did with the Last Supper scene. So what you're seeing is really just a stereo photograph of a model sitting on a tabletop, and whatever that model is, that's what you're seeing. So there was no, they didn't work on them afterwards. There's no post-production. That's what you see for seeing them.
What other topics are there throughout the book?
What other topics are there? Well, the world of stereoscopy is vast. Everything that you can see on TV or in films these days, you could see in stereo files in those days. So you could see portraits, you could see landscapes. They had trips to the pyramids, trips to people growing tea in China, and historical events, and all kinds of stuff. So it's almost infinite, the amount of things. So we could write an enormous number of books. They wouldn't be quite as... we are. Very tiring. But, we do have plans to do some more books. Yes.
Stereos at the time were their version of TV, so the family would get together and they'd travel to other countries or do whatever. So you pick a topic, there'll be a stereo view of it.
Except space. No, space travel. Everything. No internet. Mobile phone.
One last question. Was France the only place that did Diableries?
Yes, it was. Yes. It was.
Purely French phenomenon.
That's why the French don't want the book actually. Too French. Too French.
I've had so many offers from publishers around the world, but not from France.
Strange, this is.
Although after the government shutdown, I'm thinking about starting one for Diableries.
Thank you all for joining us this evening. This time we are going to move on to the signing portion of the event, so if I could ask you all to please remain where you are. We'll be calling you up very shortly by row. I'm just going to let these guys get situated first again. Oh yeah, and another reminder to please, when you exit at the back, drop off your glasses with Sky. Thank you.
Right, when do you get back to music?
Tonight.
How's your knee holding up?
My knee's not so bad, thank you. It's a long recovery time. They're talking about 6 months. I'm good though, I can dance, I can dance.